Good afternoon, YouTube citizens, Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters. Back as always to share relevant information that's interesting, that's definitely insightful, and helpful to understanding the modern day times we in the everyday world. But I got some more interesting facts that has been hidden from view. You know, it's said in the scripture that God revealed his secrets to his prophets. You may heard that before. Yeah, not bragging or nothing, but But moving on, more about the truth in adjacent to Hitler being allies with the true Jews, but also the origin of the alliance of America and the Israelites. It goes real deep here. And I've been new this knowledge. I just hadn't put it out. Like I said, my computer was down for so long due to lack of me not keeping it clean and got real slow or whatnot. I already explained that in an earlier video. So now it's time to move forward and, like I said, keep going. But anywho, yeah, I've been knowing this stuff, and like I said, just getting around to getting it all out. So it's kind of a reminder here. It's like Heavenly Father tap on the shoulder saying, "Hey, you got to get this out here." So, but getting to it now, when you think of the word racism, the first thing you think about is negativity, right? Racism. Ooh, bad word, or that's bad actions or bad person because racism. When you think of the word socialism, socialist, same thing. So my question is, how can one be a lover of people or a lover of ethnicities without it seeming like a bad thing? Because a person who loves racists, what would the word be for a person who loves racists? Because a racist could go either way, just like a nationalist, an environmentalist, and so forth. So the suffix ist could go either way. A person who's solely for this particular culture or this particular thing. So if a person is a lover of racists, what would the word be for a person who loves races or different ethnicities? If a person is a person who loves different nationalities, what would be the correct word that that person would be entitled without seeming if it's a harmful thing that they're doing or they are a bad person? Because socialism is a lover of different nationalities. And racism or racist can be the same. Where am I going with this? Hitler was a lover of different nationalities. He was fascinated with different ethnicities. He didn't believe in race mixing because he thought that would take the purity out of the ethnic group. So therefore, Hitler did practices such as sterilizing and so forth to keep people from race mixing. The desire of black men or Jews has been great even back then because a lot of German women to this day and back then desired black men just as well as European women because there was certain parts of the world where women from Europe would travel to parts of Jamaica or the Caribbeans just to have sex with guys of the natives over there. So, they looked at it like a spa or vacation or something. Hey, I'm finna go on vacation and I'm finna go to the Caribbeans or to parts of Jamaica so I can get screwed and come back like, she just went to some sort of pleasurable resort or something. So that actually goes on, believe it or not. You can look it up. So, by Hitler being a lover of different races, he was considered a socialist, a fascist, and so forth and etc. It's just so many lies been told about this man. He was actually a decent person. Like I said, Hitler was no different than Gaddafi. He was no different than JFK, Malcolm X. He was a lover of people, and he believed in unity of all nationalities. And it's like anybody who preached unity, especially in Americas, was a terrorist or a pacifist, and all these this name calling. It's so much childishness in this country, and that's the biggest problem that is going on in America. It's too much childishness. A lot of people just need to grow up and accept the fact that people are different from you. People are living their own lives. Because a person is not in agreement with your perspective, that doesn't make them a bad person. It just simply make them different. So it's just a lot of growing up that needs to take place here. So anywho, the Jesse Owens story points out and illustrate that Hitler was not racist. And it's a video on Tube actually about that. And it's many other things that prove Hitler was a decent person. He was just evil to a particular people. And that particular people is what's known today over here as Europeans with a different alias, known as Americans. Hitler really despised the American people because of the harm that was brought against our ancestors. Because of the great lie that a lot of the American people of old was assisting the Khazarians in, which they still doing today. And it's not a lot, because it's a lot of deception. Like, I'm not generalizing here saying all whites are aware of the truth here in Americas, just like all blacks are not aware of the truth. But that's why I said Americans of old was helping to pretty much discredit a people that did nothing to them, all out of jealousy, because they knew the prophecies in the Bible were not real. But I'm going to get to that. So that's what Hitler was against. He was highly against people of America in times of old, trying to see the correct way to say it, trying to help the Khazarian people steal an identity of a people that's harmless. And these people who call themselves Israelis and Jewish people today, they know the truth. They know who the real Jews are. But they're hiding under a different alias. Why? To inherit the blessings of God. These people know God truly exists. People over here in America know God truly exists. The whole point of the alliance, which I'm going to get to, is in order to receive the blessings of God. I mean, this whole world, like the Crusades, the cultural differences, it's all based around God. And it's unbelievable how deep it goes, because it's all based around him. No matter how much you put your mind in sports and politics and all these other avenues, when you get finished, it's all based around God. And that's the beauty and amazement of it on my behalf, is the revelation that's coming about. Like, wow, this is all based around him. Like when he, so much trying to come out one time. The song where he got the whole world in his hands. That is the actuality. So, but get right to it with Hitler. Like I said, Hitler was a lover of nationalities, and the hatred that he had towards the Jewish people and towards the Americans is the harm that was being brought to us. The Germans was already enemies of the Romans anyways. They was always arch enemies. And plus, the harm that was being brought to our people, to our ancestors. Hitler didn't like that, so he took it offense. And like I said in the other video, with Hitler was an ally of Hebrew Israelites, how it was a lot of black Nazis and a lot of black Jews, or Jews, the real Jews. Shouldn't just say black Jews, I just say Jews. Not Jewish, but Jews, because they were the real Jews, was a part of the German army. So he was out to protect them. He even got the autograph of Jesse Owens. like the movie Race, based off Jesse Owens, which I'm sure they left the Hitler part of it out. But he even got Jesse Owens' autograph. He was a huge supporter of the black race. Why? Because he knew our identity. He saw how blessed we were as a people, how skilled we were. I mean, it's so much evidence and proof. So, Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters, I really advise you to study more about Hitler. Zoom in on Hitler's alliance with the Hebrew Israelites, with our ancestors, and you will be amazed. Like the reason the Germans and other ethnic groups all over the East abroad, had a great deal of respect for our people is because how educated we are, naturally intelligent, you know, have a natural ingenuity about ourselves. We real creative. We can create things from scratch. I mean, it's just no matter what condition we put in, we always create a way to survive or try to we always make entertainment out of thin air, just out of nowhere. We always came up with ways to encourage ourselves and strengthen ourselves. We always came up with ways with point blank to survive. And it's so much been copycatted off our culture from other cultures around the world. So many people have copycatted off our culture because we not just had, but still have this uniqueness about our culture. We are still culturally different, even though Americanized, but there's still a lot of hereditary things about our culture that has not been tampered with and has not been Americanized. They're still fascinating. We still followed and looked up to in so many ways, and the jealousy, of course, still exists. So, really advise you to zoom more in on Hitler, read more about his association with our ancestors, and you'll be amazed. He was not a bad person. He was actually a very good, decent person. Just like I noticed this pattern, like so many other leaders, revolutionaries, have always been painted as terrorists or tyrants, and they really weren't who they was painted to be. And like I said in other videos, JFK, Gaddafi, Martin Luther King, I mean, Saddam Hussein, is so many that's not as bad as they out to be. Like Saddam, he was the same way. He was standing up for the rights of his people because there was a lot of Americans invading his homeland. And by the troops over there, they just basically following orders, but they was disrespecting his homeland. So him being a prime minister, a leader, he was trying to defend and protect his people. But over here in America, he was painted out to be a terrorist. But he was actually trying to defend and protect his people. But anywho, I'm already going at 15 minutes in, but it's still relevant information. So anywho, getting right to the point past Hitler. Now, what people don't realize is the alliance of America and the state of Israel. Where did that alliance come from? Where, I mean, it just came out of nowhere. Let me show you where it came from. Here we go again. Yeah. All right. Let me start by this book here, but I'm going to do kind of like a quick, brief review, and then I'm going to do some reading here. Give you reference and a source for a chapter I'm reading out of in the scripture. Let you read for yourself. And you're finna be amazed. You'll be like, what? Yeah. The American and Israeli alliance came from the Roman and Jew alliance. If you remember reading in the scriptures with Christ was punished the Roman way. He received a Roman punishment for, of course, the lies and the blasphemies that were spoken against him. But why is it that the Jews didn't deal with Christ according to their own customs? Well, of course, the high priest thought they was washing themselves of sin. They knew they was doing a wrong act, so they didn't want to be the ones guilty of doing any wrong or harm to Christ. So that's why they put it over in the hands of Pilate and put it over in the hands of the Romans to do any type of punishment to Christ. So therefore, they can have an excuse where we weren't the ones that punished them. The Romans did. So they basically, that's why Pilate, he like, I'm washing my hands of it. The high priest was like, hey, I'm washing my hands of it. And to Herod Jr., hey, he's a madman. I'm washing my hands of it. It's like the Jews did not want to be guilty of Christ's blood. They didn't want Christ's blood on their hands. So they was trying to get somebody else to punish him and do wrong so they can get out of, being the ones guilty of bringing death to him or punishing him in any type of way. So they was trying to find somebody to be the scapegoat to blame their sins on. So it was like, hey, well, Pilate the one gave that order to crucify him. So we ain't got nothing to do with it, when they had everything to do with it, of course. So the Jews seeking Pilate's counsel, the Romans and the Jews affiliating with each other, socializing with each other. They made movies about it, where the Romans and the Jews was associating with each other. They had an alliance. Where did that come from? Well, all of a sudden the Jews had an alliance with the Romans. Well, I'm finna read a little bit of it, but it's in First Maccabees and also Second Maccabees, but I think it's mostly First Maccabees and Apocrypha. I'm gonna read a little bit of it, but I'm gonna elaborate a little bit more before I read. Now, when the Roman invasion took place in 70 AD, it was Alexander the Great and it was Titus. Alexander the Great was first, I believe, in the conquering, and Titus followed along because the Romans invaded Jerusalem more than one time. It just wasn't once. It was more than once. I think Titus was the last Roman conqueror to invade. Alexander the Great was first. So after the invasion took place, of course, for some of the Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters, a lot of our ancestors fled west, trying to hide from the invasion, and they took on the citizenship of African. So that's where that whole confusion and mixture comes up, is that we African. No, our ancestors were African citizens. They wanted to disguise and blend themselves as African so people wouldn't notice their identity. So of course they changed their customs. They blended in so people would know, hey, you're a Jew, you're a Hebrew Israelite. So they did that on purpose, of course. So when a lot of our ancestors fled west, there was a remnant that stayed behind that did not escape the invasion. So the ones that did not escape the invasion was taken into captivity, as our ancestors have been taken into captivity several times. Several. Okay. But of course, and those familiar with the history know that. So the ones that was taken into captivity ended up forming an alliance with the Romans. Jerusalem was under Roman authority. So it was no longer under the Jews' authority anymore. It was under Roman authority since it was conquered, and the Romans pretty much feel like they owned Jerusalem. So, but I don't feel like they own Jerusalem, but we're going to let the Jews run it, but we're going to dictate how it goes and how civilization has took place in Jerusalem. That's how the alliance was formed after the invasion. Now, it's have this one way, and then the other way, as I read in here, is they sought the alliance. But yeah, this is still after the invasion, though. This is after things settled down. Okay, so after the invasion, like I said, the alliance was formed because the Jews admired how powerful the Romans were. They saw how powerful the Romans were, and by making an alliance, they knew that if anybody came against us, we shall have protection by the Romans, and vice versa. They looked out for each other. So when they saw how the Romans was going around conquering everybody, and they was pretty much seemed undefeated, the Jews knew that if they had the Romans as their ally, that they would definitely have the protection needed from any other invader or conqueror. So let's begin to read, shall we? First Maccabees chapter 8. Now, like I said, this book, this whole like book of Maccabees, like really diving into history, but chapter 8 gets right to it. It says, now Judas. Now, of course, you had a lot of common names back then. Like, sure, Christ's name was common. Well, not his last name, but because Christ is actually his title. But, like, Jesus' name was common. You know, he had common names. It said, now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a leave of enmity with all that came unto them. And that they were men of great valor, it was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done amongst the Galatians, and how they conquered them, and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of mines of the silver and gold which is there, and that by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them, from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomfited them, and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. So here it is. This is a Jew named Judas that pretty much sought the support of the Romans. And just as I just read, see how that he's admiring and how he pretty much was like an advocate for the Jews on behalf of them. So he went about to be the messenger, speaking on behalf of the Jews for the protection of the Romans. So this what I just read shows where they admired how the Romans was conquering, how they was seemed unstoppable. So therefore, the Jews looking at, hey, they even conquered us. So if we have them as an alliance, protection. So I'm finna get ready to read where I'm talking about. Skipping down to 17. It says, in consideration of these things, Judas chose Euphalemus, the son of John, the son of Achaz, and Jason, the son of Eleazar, and sent them to Rome, to make a league of amity and confederacy with them. So amity, make peace with them, confederacy, and alliance with them. So here's how the alliance started with the Roman and the Jews, is they saw all the conquering, even themselves being conquered, but they was subjugated under Roman authority. So they could still practice their customs and do as they please, but the Jews had to pay taxes to Caesar. And that's how they end up having to pay taxes, was when the invasion of Jerusalem took place. They end up being subjugated to Caesar. So that's what gave Rome its great power and authority. And like I just read, he said, giving them a great overthrow, that the rest gave them tribute every year. So everybody's paying contributions to Rome. Everybody's paying taxes to Rome. So when the Romans go about collecting taxes from different areas that they have conquered, and it's all going back to Caesar, so making it this rich and powerful city. So I'm going to keep reading here. It says, and to entreat them that they would take the yoke from them. See, and to entreat them that they would take the yoke from them. For they saw that the kingdom of the Grecians did oppress Israel with servitude. So here, as I just read, make an alliance, because they said to entreat them to take the yoke from them, meaning, of course, they was in captivity. They was subjugated to Rome as well. So instead of enduring the harshness of Rome, as other countries was enduring, they wanted to make an alliance, so things would be a lot more peaceful. Now I'm going to keep reading. So they went therefore to Rome, which was a very great journey, and came into the Senate, where they spoke and said, Judas Maccabees with his brethren, the people of the Jews have sent us unto you to make a confederacy and peace with you, and that you might and that we might be registered your confederates and friends. And the English here is not so modern and up to date, so that's why I keep stumbling a bit, because it's kind of that Shakespearean almost. 21. So that matter pleased the Romans well. Okay, the people of the Jews have sent us unto you to make confederacy and peace with you, and that we might be registered your confederates and friends. So your allies and your friends. So here the Jews are making an alliance with the Romans. It says so that matter pleased the Romans well. So they're like, okay, we can do that. So here's the beginning of the Roman and Jew alliance. All right, moving on. And this is the copy of the epistle which the Senate wrote back again in tables of brass and sent to Jerusalem, that there they might have by them a memorial peace and confederacy. Good success be to the Romans and to the people of the Jews by sea and by land forever. The sword also in the enemy be far from them. So this alliance, this is supposed to be continued forever. This is an ongoing covenant. It said, if there come first any war upon the Romans or any of the confederates throughout all their dominion, the people of the Jews shall help them, as the time shall be appointed, with all their heart. Neither shall they give anything unto them that make war upon them, or aid them with victuals, weapons, money, or ships, as it hath seemed good unto the Romans. But they shall keep their covenants without taking anything thereof. In the same manner also, if war come first upon the nation of the Jews, the Romans shall help them with all their heart, according as the time should be appointed. Neither shall victuals be given to them that take part against them, or weapons, or money, or ships, as it has seemed good to the Romans, but they shall keep their covenants, and that without deceit. So what's going on with the falsehood covenant today is the riches and wealth of America, stay with America. The riches and wealth of the state of Israel, stay with the state of Israel. This false alliance, that these are not the real, Romans over here, because if they was the real Romans, why are you under a new alias? I mean, they are descendants of the Europeans, but it's a mixture over here. So under the title, we Americans. The same way with the Israelites, they under the title, we Jewish or we Israelites, but they really not Jewish or Israelites, they the Khazarians. But they gave themselves a new title. I'm explaining in a sec. Say, according to these articles, did the Romans make a covenant with the people of the Jews? Howbeit, if hereafter the one party or the other shall think meet to add or diminish anything, they may do it at their pleasures, and whatsoever they shall add or take away shall be ratified. And as touching the evils that Demetrius doeth to the Jews, Demetrius, that was the Persian ruler at the time, we have written unto him, saying, wherefore hast thou made thy yoke heavy upon our friends and confederates, the Jews? If therefore they complain any more against thee, we will do them justice and fight them by sea and by land. So this, what I just read, is First Maccabees chapter 8. This is 17 through 32. But chapter 8 explains the alliance of the Romans and the Jews. Now, here's what's going on today. To go ahead and wrap this up. All right? The Khazarian Jews, this is why Hitler is tied into this. The Khazarian Jews, the fake Jews, are trying to protect themselves. This covenant, this alliance that was made with the Romans forever is it still exists, but it's out of deceit. The Khazarians ran out the real Jews out of the ghettos, ran out the real Jews, and they lived in the ghettos because there was a place where Germans allowed Jews to exist. They had their own establishment, and it was nice before it was all rugged and run down. He actually took care of those people. It was the Jewish people, the Khazarian Jews, the fake Jews, that the ones made ghettos real horrible and real bad because when they came over after the alliance, the assistance of the Americans took place in helping to defeat Hitler, that's when blacks started getting treated horribly and got put in poverty because the Americans helped to put our ancestors there. So the Khazars, who are fake Jews that's still in the identity, they posed as Jews because they know the truth of God's blessings and the truth of God, period. So they wanted to pose as the identity, take on the identity of the Jews so they can receive the favor of the Jews because our ancestors had a great amount of favor all over the world and they wanted that favor. So they took on that identity of being Jews in order to receive the favor and also the blessings from around the world. But that's why the Iranian people keep attacking the Israelis. That's why the I think the Gaza people of Gaza are attacking them. That's why North Korea. That's why different people are enemies with the Jewish people over there or the fake Jews because they know these people are not the real Jews. The Iranian president Ahmadinejad is highly intelligent, educated. He knows the truth. Obama knows the truth. A lot of those people in the East know the truth that those people are not the real Jews. So the reason they took on the title of Jews is for protection because they feared that the Holocaust may take place again. So because of this great fear of the Holocaust taking place again, that's why they trying to receive empathy for what happened. So people wouldn't think to try to do it again. Like that was a horrible, tragic thing that happened. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was genocide. I don't have anything personal against the people. But Hitler knew what those people were doing. He knew that they was trying to take on an identity that didn't belong to them. So that's what led to the extermination of those people, trying to get rid of them. Because he knew that they was posing as someone who they was not. These people was poor and homeless, and they had no respect, no credit, none whatsoever. So in order to receive some type of respect and credit, they took on an identity. They stole the identity just to receive attention, basically. So that's where you pretty much have it. Now, on that part, now also the reason a lot of the Jewish people are trying to take a lot of control and the reason all the lies are told on both the American and Jewish people, because this whole state of Israel is a lie. In the scripture, it talks about a new Jerusalem. And it says all 12 tribes of Israel should be in this new Jerusalem and Sharu. It didn't say no one particular tribe in a state of Israel. So it was trying to rewrite and reroute the prophecy. And let me explain about the rerouting the prophecy. These people know the scriptures are real. They're valid. That's why a lot of stuff been hidden from view. Not trying to teach accurate history. In the Bible, it teaches about the extermination of Esau's descendants, which being the Khazarians, which being Spaniards, French, not all those who are non-believers. So don't, you know, but it does speak about that in the book of Obadiah about the extermination of Esau's descendants. Now, of course, you being a believer in Christ, of course, you will be covered by the blood. It'll be like Egypt in the days of Moses. Whoever household was covered by the blood should be saved because there was a lot of Egyptians that believed and they put lamb's blood on their doors and the plague overpassed them. So you covered by the blood of Christ, nothing to worry about. But those who not, even those who are Hebrew Israelites by DNA, hereditary and Hebrew Israelites, the same thing. It said the new covenant is through the faith of Abraham and also through Christ. So at first the covenant was just simply having a blood and DNA, simply being an Israelite. Then the covenant changed, said having the faith of Abraham makes you a true Israelite and believing in Christ, accepting Christ into your heart. So, it's all for protection. Europeans know the great extermination that's spoken of in the Bible. The Khazarians that's posing the Jews know of the great extermination that's spoken of in the Bible. So therefore, it's trying to reroute the prophecy, trying to control everything, trying to rewrite everything. So I guess if God attempts to bring somebody up again like he did with Christ, to try to bring that prophecy into light, to bring it into fruition, that they will have control. Like, we ain't gonna allow it to happen over here and happen over here. In other words, they're looking at Herod, how Herod tried to prevent the prophecy from happening, and it still happened. So that's what the fake Jews and the wannabe Romans, or hidden Romans, I ain't gonna say wannabe, I say the hidden Romans under a different alias as American, is trying to prevent, is they don't want that extermination to happen because it's prophesied to happen. So that's why I'm trying to get control of everything and rewrite everything. So the reason a lot of lies are told and there's a lot of control, usually when there's a lot of lies and a lot of control and everything, that means it's a lot of fear, a whole lot of fear. Because why so many lies and why so much control? Because there's so much fear. Yeah, the rabbit hole goes deep. So, leaving it at that, but there you have it. That explains the American and Israeli covenant, which is built off the authentic covenant of the Roman and the Jews, which would be us, the blacks, the real deal Jews, who the Israelites know to be the truth of who we are. It's a remnant left in Nigeria and parts of Africa. That's the authentic. We authentic as well. We are Americanized, but the reason I say they're more authentic because everything is still pure with them. They still read out of the Torah. They still speak the language, the Hebrew fluently. They still practice the customs. Us, as far as being scattered all over the world, we been reconditioned, and the Heavenly Father speaks about that in Deuteronomy 28:64, about how we should be reconditioned. And basically, that reconditioning is a purging. It's a purging of our old ways, our ancestors' ways. So that voodoo, that witchcraft, that ignorance, that foolishness, which seem to be reoccurring, can be purged up out of us. So that's why he did what he did. He's trying his best to save us in whatever manner he can. So that's why it says only 144,000 should be saved out of each tribe, because the majority has been contaminated. So, but just wanted to share more revelation about Hitler, the alliance that Hitler made with our ancestors, the Hebrew Israelites, with the Jews, and how our ancestors also had an alliance with the ancient Europeans of old. A lot of people over in Europe, they know the truth. It's only in Americas. There's a lot of lies, but even people over in Europe know the truth. And see, they knew that our ancestors had a great amount of power. Like, they allies with the Germans. They allies with the Europeans. And see, that right there is what led to the conflict of interest. Is because we was allies first with the Europeans. But then some of our ancestors became allies with the Germans. Or really, it wasn't just the alliance took place with the Germans, is us affiliating with the enemy. That's what the Romans didn't like. It's like, why are they affiliating with our enemy? Why are they being friendly with our enemy? So that's when the harshness came on our ancestors from the Europeans, is by us affiliating with the enemy. That goes back to that we don't negotiate with terrorists, statement. That goes back to that. It's like, why they negotiate, not necessarily negotiating, but why they socializing with terrorists? That goes back to being a socialist. So why are they socializing with terrorists? So that's when the conflict of interest took place, and that's when the Europeans started to turn on our ancestors because being affiliated with the enemy. So when the Europeans started to turn on our ancestors, that's when they started to migrate towards the Germans. So it's like, oh, you traded on us, huh? You know, we was your allies first, and now you want to go over to the Germans. So that's where big conflict, real big conflict. And like I said, it wasn't that our ancestors was living with Germans and associating with Hitler. Like I said, it was just all, why are you associating with the enemy? Why are y'all dealing with the enemy? Just point blank. So it goes deep, man. It's very interesting. And the more I learn about this stuff, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All credit and glory goes to Heavenly Father above. As y'all can see, they still lead me to knowledge, introducing me to stuff, and using me as an instrument to bring it to the light. So there you have it, the Apocrypha, First Maccabees, chapter 8. Read it for yourselves. It matches up perfectly, and this whole man just facade, like the American and Israeli alliance, is all built and based around God. So for any of you who sit here and you constantly try to deny God, like all the current events of the world. I mean, history points out. I mean, I just read and proved to you, where the alliance came from and how the Americans and the Israelis stole the alliance of the Roman and Jews, how these Khazarians are posing as Jews, trying to act as if this is the covenant that was spoken of. It's so much, man, that your mind just can't hardly process it all. You're like, wow. And to me, it's fascinating. So it's like, man, chasing women and all that worldly stuff, brothers, wake up, because it's bigger than you think. See the big picture. Quit doing this tunnel vision. Think outside of the box. See the big picture. Because as you can see, it's some amazing discoveries. So I'm going to leave it at that. Peace be unto you all. Christ for life.